welcome. Thoughts can be especially seductive when directed at the imagined character. What do I mean by that? What imagined character? In speaking about this, I will be talking in terms of the relative reality and the infinite, since there is no separation, there's no distinction. Uh, I'll just be going back and forth because they are mutually existent. So I began studying about non-duality. I don't even know that I called it that, actually. But I began studying with different teachers, maybe like around 2010. We were all familiar with Eckhart Tolle and um, Byron Katie. That was kind of my beginnings. And then I started to go to satsang um, in my community and discovered different teachers. And I just felt so incredibly fortunate that I was able to ask questions. And all that time from around, and by the way, just so that you know, time is relative as well. It's not the absolute. But in this relative reality, it took years to, how do I say, begin to unfold from this attachment to this imaginary character that I took myself to be. Imaginary character meaning what? That there is this person who has this history and who has these issues that need to be improved or fixed or something. I mean, we're all raised, we're all conditioned to believe, most of us anyway, that, we're not quite right, that something needs to be improved. I mean, man, uh, in opening to the mystery, I just lay out all of the ways that I attempted to better this character that I thought I was. And and let me quickly add that there's no regret for any of it. I mean, it was just perfect in its unfolding. I mean, it was absolutely essential because that's the way it went. But the what I'm trying to say is I was studying for many, many years, believing this imagined character was who I am. And, and then when I started to recognize that, then there was this, oh, I've got to get rid of it. I mean, it just goes on and on. This seeking for improvement, this seeking for betterment. Uh, it's just it's just so ingrained, really, is what it is. So when and a big portion of this is just the belief in thoughts. Thoughts are always or very often criticizing this character. Something goes wrong, and oh, that was stupid, or I was stupid, or how could I have been so dumb? I mean, I can't stress enough the importance of noticing thoughts because these thoughts go hand in hand with the imaginary character uh, being something and not being good enough. So it's uh, bringing awareness to these thoughts. What are these thoughts perpetuating over and over again? That I am a separate character. in so many different sort of ways. So it was this ongoing unfolding for years, studying, learning, reading, attending satsang. It's just kind of how unfolding appeared here. And, it wasn't until I've mentioned that I met Peter and perhaps learning a new way to explore reality directly. Earlier on, it seemed to be just like I was in college and I was learning this new way of understanding reality. So it was still intellectual, but it wasn't until meeting Peter you know, I asked a lot of questions because I still had these ideas that my personality wasn't good enough and other people's were. And, just it's again this attachment to this um, imagined character. And when I say imagined, how do I even describe it? It's it's believing the story. It's believing the story uh, of whatever have thought about myself or whatever I thought I needed to do to improve. Um, it's it's all of this. It's kind of hard to put into words, but again, it just keeps coming back to thoughts about anything. It's the way we hold reality to be. Reality is a certain way. And so um, I'm in emotional pain, I'm suffering, um, I feel desperate, I don't have any energy. All of this is how I hold reality to be. These are ideas, these are thoughts. So just investigate. If those thoughts are simply set aside for a moment, to set them aside, what is here? The thought about feeling desperate or I'm never going to improve. Those are all thoughts. They're all ideas. What happens if you set it all aside and come to the breath? Attend to sensation. Feel whatever is arising. If it feels emotional, just breathe. You're going to start spinning thoughts. Well, the thought is going to start spinning itself, but breathe. And let me interrupt real quick here and say, if you're in this emotional thick of it, this is probably not the best time to simply be, you know, trying to redirect your attention. Uh, I would suggest playing with experience when we're not activated, when we are just kind of hanging out, just kind of, nothing really is coming up. That's the best time to play with experience and and play with the different dimensions of experience, sound, sensation, colors, light, and feel, literally feel this presence that you are. The character is imagined. Yes, there appears to be this body when your eyes are open that shows up in experience. But if you close the eyes all that's here is sensation. So be aware of this. Be aware of the ideas that you're holding. This really requires some noticing. It's not easy to look at the ways that we believe reality is that is only due to our programming. It's not easy because, we have an explanation for everything. That's more thought. So this imagined character, I began to recognize how I was holding beliefs about it and the feelings attaching to them, feeling inadequate, feeling like something's wrong with me. But that's really an idea. It's not a feeling. You could say, oh, I feel like there's something wrong. It's an idea. So begin to recognize the difference between a feeling and an idea, because our ideas are creating how we feel most of the time. And, then we look at our supposed shortcomings, more ideas, more judgment, more, it's all this seduction, truly seductive. So what's here is beyond all of our ideas about anything. Anything that you can have an idea about is simply an idea, because what's here is beyond ideas. What is here is beyond any labels, is beyond any description, is beyond any categorization. So notice that. Notice when you're putting something in a category. I mean, it's not wrong, obviously, um, in the relative field of experiencing, you know, I need to categorize vegetables and meat. Okay, great. So what? Just see it. Just see how it's simply occurring in this relative field of experience. But in the infinite, there are no categories. There are no labels for things, because nothing that you can label is what it really is. And until you see that, until you understand, recognize, you know, have that be your direct experience, because this is not about just coming to a new package of beliefs. That'll that'll just give you just a new story. So, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your questions. I'd love to hear what you're pondering. I'd love to talk with some people who would like to have a conversation. Um, the the way I become most inspired to share anything here is because of things people write to me, or I read on Facebook. Um, so I get inspired. But then, of course, I bumble because, you know, this, I don't have this memory anymore that retains these concepts. So I just kind of bumble along and do my best. But, with direct experience and actual exchange with someone here instead of looking at myself in the screen, that would be really fun. So in the meantime, I love your being here. I would love to hear from you. Any questions, ponderings, whatever. And do be in touch. And happy noticing, happy investigating your direct experience.